Hi, welcome back to the shed for episode 35 of Great Guitar Build Off 2023. And in this episode, we've just got a couple of little jobs that we need to tick off before we can start to think about getting this thing into finish. Okay, so we're getting somewhere near finishing on this guitar now. It is getting very, very close. Last time we got these two little cavity covers kind of fitted up with their magnets so that they just snap into place now. And I'm actually really pleased with the way that they've worked. I've never used magnets before. I've always been a little bit wary of doing so, but I think they've actually worked really, really well. And they're not going anywhere. They are not falling off on their own, which is really, really good. But there's still a few jobs to do before we can get on to the finish prep. I need to put the output jack in, and that's going down here on this lower bout area. That will just drill straight through into the cavity. And I also want to address the transition at the heel because I've done quite a bit of work to it. I've removed a lot of material, but I'm still not happy with it, and I think it can still be better. So we'll be working on that in a little bit, but first I'm going to tackle this output jack. I've got a nice chrome plate to go on there. The complexity of the electronics on this guitar means that a stereo jack is necessary, and that is basically some of the grounds go to one of the lugs on that stereo jack, which means when you take the jack plug out, it cuts the circuit, which enables you to prolong the life of the battery. Not that that's a massive issue, because getting to the battery, as we've just seen, is really, really easy. So I'll get this set up in the vise so it's a little bit easier to work on, and then we can see how we're going to go about putting this in place. And I'm not really going to go too overboard with this. I want this kind of about there, centered on the body. Needs to be nice and square. We'll put one hole there. We'll get a screw in that, and then we can properly square it up and get the other three in place. Okay, so that's the output jack fitted. Went very well, but as anyone who's done a fair amount of work like this will know, you can quite often sail through the really difficult, hard bits on a build because you're stressing about them and you're paying attention and you're taking your time. And it's the little bits like fitting an output jack or drilling for a tuner screw or something like that that catches you off guard, and you make a complete and utter balls up of it and end up having to do a load of repair work or end up ruining hours and hours of hard labour that you've already put in. So good to get that out of the way as easy as it was. Now next up is the continuing rework on this heel, and I think this is going to be potentially a little bit risky because I'm going to break the router out again because I'm not happy with this. I think there's too much bulk. It looks ugly. It just doesn't look very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a bit of an arc in here and I'm going to route down about 1/2 inch. I'm going to make a template. I'm going to do most of the routing with a straight cutter, but then I'm going to use a bull nose bit for right into the corner of that arc, and hopefully what that will do is leave me like quite a nice rounded detail on the inside of there, and then I can chamfer the rest of that away and make it look pretty. And what I'll end up with is this being substantially thinner than it is now. I'm going to try and bring it this side of where the wing joins just so I can keep that joining detail. Obviously on this side it's not so much of a problem because we've already got that great big cutaway, but I just think that's going to give me good access and just finish off this area nicely, and I think aesthetically it's going to be a lot better. In terms of strength, which I know some people have been a little bit concerned about, this is a through neck. It is going to be as strong, if not stronger, than either a bolt-in or a glue-in neck, even if I do remove a lot more material around this neck joint. I would imagine this is going to be exponentially stronger than, say, an SG or something similar to that. So I think the first thing we need to do is just start sketching this up, and I'm going to sketch this onto some glue masking tape so that once I've got a shape I think I like, I can then just peel the tape off and transfer that to some material to make my template with. And I'm going to start it around about there. I can always finesse it, and it needs to finish about there. So I'm simply going to find something that works on the French curve like that. I think that looks okay. So we can take this off, get it onto a bit of MDF or something and start to make a template out of it. Okay, so that's that quick template made and just dropped on there. I've got the little router with the big base, and I'm just going to kind of take out about 3/8 to half an inch of material from there. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sketch a line in about there. I'm going to go down to that line to about the thickness I want, and then I'm going to swap the cutter out to a bullnose bit and use that to come back to the template, and that way I'll end up with a nice rounded internal radius in there, which I can then round over on the top edge, and hopefully we can then blend everything else in and end up with something that looks a bit nicer. So without further ado, I'll start to take some of this material out. Okay, so that's the bulk of that material taken out with the straight cutter, but my plan has totally fallen apart at the seams because I don't have a bullnose cutter with a long enough shaft to put a bearing on. So I would have to do that freehand, and I don't really trust myself to do that. So I'm going to mark this up to where I wanted to radius it back to. I'm going to take the template off, and I'm going to have to break out the gouges again and use those to just kind of put the radius I want into this little bit, just to give it a bit of a cleaner look than what we have there. We can then blend this all in and then kind of reshape this heel to make it look a little bit swisher. But I think that that now looks a lot nicer now we've taken some of that material out. So out with the faithful spoon gouges, and we can see if we can get this looking something like. Okay, so there's kind of the bulk of that shaping done, and it's looking okay. It's a little bit rough and it needs a little bit of sanding, but I think we can manage that. And I've just taken this down probably about another 5mm, and that's as low as I'm going to take this. I'm now going to start blending this all in and making it match in with the neck, but I'll do that with rasps and files and stuff, maybe a little bit more chiseling. But I think it's getting there. I think it just needs kind of a bit more cleaning up, a bit more finessing. and start to work it into something that's a bit smoother and a bit nicer looking. Now, if any of you think that I might be flying by the seat of my pants a little bit on this one, there's probably quite a good reason for that. I think sometimes you just have to go for things and see what you end up with. Okay, and that's the bulk of that shaping done. There's still a little bit of finessing to do. I think there's a bit more material to take out of that little bit there. And also there's a little bit of a hump there that needs to come out. But most of what I need to do is done. There's a whole heap of fine sanding to do, but we can get that when we approach the rest of it. And I think that looks a hell of a lot better. It all seems to flow a lot nicer now. And obviously we've got rid of all of that extra material that I don't think we really need. So I think that's going to be absolutely spot on. I'm pretty confident that that's the last of the major jobs out of the way. So from here, we've got a whole lot of sanding to do to get this ready for finish. I think after that, I want to do a full trial build. Just get everything into the guitar, get everything screwed and bolted on, just to make sure that it all fits and works perfectly. I might even chuck a set of old strings on just to make sure that that side of things is where it needs to be before we get into the finishing, so that any last little jobs that need doing before the finish goes on can be out of the way and sorted out. But that's all going to be for the next episode. I'm going to leave this one here. So as always, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.